Hello! Are we live? Are we live? And we are! Excellent. Okay. So, today I'm going to keep working on energy stats, and I'm going to try and implement a new feature, which is I'm going to try and write a script to add an extra paper into the database. So this means that for now, just individual papers you can run the script on. But down the line, the idea is that you can add links or upload files directly into the website, and it will automatically pass them into the database. And then hopefully, then we might have other things. Is that when we have a user system, then we can idea of introducing tags and bookmarks, favorites and lists and things like that. But you could also, for example, upload a paper and then you could have it privately, so only you can see it, and other features like that. So this is an important thing. So at the moment, we've got all of the papers by Jean Herrera from ASPO, France, which is all of these ones. But if there's another one that we want to introduce, then we'd want to do something else. Good, okay. So, let's see. We have so I've got another paper here, which is another one from Jean Herrera, which should be public soon, but it currently isn't on the website. So that means that my scraping script won't get it. So in this this run.py script won't get it. So what I'm going to add an add new.py script. That seems pretty reasonable, and we want to so we want the same. We don't need scrape, but we do want parsdb, because we basically want to short circuit to just the process doc. So if we look at this one as defined, we can see this creates a database connection. Now I think about it, it might be better to pass the database connection in instead of instantiating one on every paper, because down the line you might have a couple of thousand papers. We've already got 200 if you're getting other people, and from organizations like the EIA you might have a lot more. So that's something to think about. I don't know how long it takes to initiate a database connection. I'm also not currently closing them. So in the DB utils, where I do close the cursors, but I don't know whether it automatically drops the database connection when it goes out of scope. So that's should probably do that to make sure everything's tidy. But basically, the URL isn't actually used for scraping. That's the point of that is just so it can be seen. So what I can do is if I put this in data, let me just check it, which one is being which one is being used. Oh. Right, so now if we go to what I have at the moment is in the folder that Apache sees, I've got this data, which is a symbolic link pointing to the folder where it actually is. And one thing that I'm planning to do is that I've mounted an NFS file share on here, so at some point I'll be moving that on, because this is a Proxmox container. Though you could see that in previous videos I've had JSON 01, but this one is 02 because I've had problems backing up an unprivileged container as well as doing the NFS stuff. It's all been a bit of a doesn't work. I don't know if I hope there's a way around it, because it is rather annoying, but we shall see. I'm not sure, but this is working for now. So data, this data is the one currently being used. So what I can do is if I put the so what I'll actually do is I'll just let me just this is the full name of the paper. So then what I'll do is I'll copy this and I'll put this into papers here. Yeah. Right. So then what I can do is in the add new so what I basically want is I want parse db dot process doc parse db dot process doc. And so then for now, if I'll just hard code in the path. But I suppose what we could do is you could give it the path to the file, and then it adds it to the right folder. It adds it to in the place where all of the papers are, and does that, and so it generates the URL and then feeds it in to where to see it. Because of course the difference between this is in the other things the URL has been pointing back to ASPO France, and to an external one, but this URL will point to the PDF on the server, because we are at least at the moment storing all of them, as opposed to just the pictures and the text which has been taken out of them. But for now, in fact, I'm just thinking, because the what we want to do is have the URL go to the path. So in fact, I think the URL and the path would actually be the same, because that's what happens with the images. For example, if we go to let me just the thing I find annoying about VS Code when you're in the SSH mode is that if it's disconnected, if you've restarted, it prompts you for the password. You put the password in and it says, oh no, it doesn't work, I need to reload. You click reload and then you have to put the password in. Why doesn't it just reload automatically? Anyway, so in the code here, which I will go over shortly, but we have the image tag here, which is just the source of the image path, and that's correct from this directory because it's going directly through this data folder, but it also works through Apache, so you can see it because of this symbolic link here. So that's why that works. So I think that's the main thing that I think that's all we need to do. In fact, if we say path, in this case, it let's do file name equals that, and then this is going to be data slash and then file name. I don't know how much it matters. The interesting thing about this is that all of the other title, all of the other names of the papers didn't come from, well, they all came from a website. I mean, we didn't really get the names of the papers, but those, the PDF names have all been generated from stuff that was out of URLs, which means none of it has any spaces in. So this will be interesting, because if we go here and we try and do, so if we go dash, right, if we go into papers, we want so what happens if we you see what's happened is it's escaped everything with the %20. So what we would now, that would be interesting, what happens if does that break? So if we save this, we want to go to, of course the easiest solution for now is we could just get rid of the spaces, but that seems like a somewhat unsatisfactory arrangement, especially if you're just uploading up arbitrary things. But you could go through and you could escape everything in some manner. So what actually because this is all explicit, but if you have a link, let's just do if we have what's the anyway, so we want in the body, we just want an anchor, and that is going to go to, and then up, I don't know, here, I'll do $PDF path equals, and then I'll do data / that. So then what happens if I do oh, there's no text. Paper link. So what happens? Oh! It needs to be /papers. So let's see if that link works now. Oh, that does work. So it does. It seems like it. Oh, it's not escaped there, but it does automatically escape it. So that makes life easier. I'm not sure if that's entirely satisfactory. There might be a way of making something a bit more robust, but I think that's probably good for now. So I don't need that. So what we should be able to do is just do now I suppose the question is at the moment, because when I run this it's going to add stuff to the database, and I don't know if there's an easy way that I can roll that back if it doesn't work. But I think at the moment not going to worry about that, because though it does take a while, it's not the end of the world if I just need to run the script again if it does mess everything up. Though I wonder, I can just make a new database, can't I? A new table rather. So I've got quite a few oh. Just do right. So do they all have I don't remember all of the which ones did right, so test, I suppose I can just look which one's currently being used. I should so because I have this, right, so that is the ones, but I have, and then the this one, that's from the first iteration, right? So I can probably at some point I'll just get rid of those, but I will just make, what I'll do is I'll just make a table for this test in particular, and then I'll just drop it afterwards. So and it's frozen. Oh, here we are. Right. So then in that would be in the DB utils, I just change this to good. Okay, so now if I do, then I go Python add new.py. It's taking a while. Don't remember how. Where was it? That's the new one. It's only 54 pages, and that did take quite a while. But let's see if it actually worked. It's the most important thing. So testers. No paper. Good, and then so I just want, I guess I'll just do image path. Good, that looks promising. So now what I will do is I'll switch over to here, and I'll do the same thing. So refresh. Um, 144. So let's just see how many there are. 122, and let's just check that matches. Yeah, 122, and they all look pretty good to me. Right, and then excellent. That seems to work just fine. So Now all we need to do is go back over to here, and then I'll just uncomment these out, get rid of those, save that, and go to dbutils, and now so now let's have a look at unconventional natural gas and see if we can find anything from this paper. Right, so if we go back up to the search, and there it is. So, that's great. So that's one more thing down. I mean, I didn't actually check how long it took, so that would be interesting to do. If I do start time equals timer, and then I want to switch. I guess actually I'll just oh, wrong one. Oh. And then I will right, so now just make sure it's all clean and just go so let's see how long it takes. So 5.5 seconds, which isn't terrible, but it's not great. Especially if you're starting to get more papers. And I know if you look at the last stream for some of the longer papers, we were sort of having 15-20 second sort of times, and that really isn't acceptable because my plan is that you'll be able to drag and drop a file into the browser or a link, and it should be able to download and do it all pretty quickly, because if it takes that amount of time and then if it has to download the file and do one or two other things, then that's going to take a lot of time, and if you upload it you want it to be quick. So especially if you're uploading a lot of files, or it would be nice if you could say do this whole website, if you do the EIA and just get all of the graphs from there, or even I think it might be really nice if this could be used on Archive to get papers for that, because there's loads and loads of papers on Archive, and if you want to see if somebody's done something or other on Archive with the graphs and things like that. I mean, I'm sure there are searches and indexes of it, but I think that would certainly be an interesting project. And there's a lot of papers on there, so if you wanted to do that, you need to be a lot faster. So right, so that's one thing down. I thought I might, if anybody's curious, might go over a bit how the display code actually works. So let me just check that let's just switch this back. Right. So the way that this works is, and I just always stick the database code in another file, and at the moment it's rather insecure, but it's just on the LAN, and obviously if this, before anything goes out seriously, that's going to be hardened up. But yeah, so then these are just setting some values that are used for the rest of it. So the default number that are displayed per page, and then what I've done is I've written a utility function you can see here, which you pass in a value from the request, and if it exists, then you use that value. Otherwise, you use the default value. So in this case, basically, if there's the number per page in the request, then we use that. Otherwise, just use the default, and do the same thing here because we've got the default image size, and I think something is used further down. So the searching logic, I think this could be simplified somewhat, but basically, as you might have seen before, there's a table for the papers, and then there's another table for the graphs, and each graph has the paper ID. So the first thing we do is we just see, is there a search or not, and if there isn't, then let me just see, I can't remember. Yeah, so this is a bit, I've got this same chunk of code in here. Very similar. So as I say, there's quite, this isn't very dry code, but I mean it works for now, and I think it would be an interesting exercise to go over and see how it could be improved. But the basic idea is that if there is anything in the search terms, if there is a search key in the search box, then we explode that, because as you might have noticed before, you can put, so for example, the example that I used was gas and Canada, but you could do Russia, and what it does is, well, that's not ideal, but it tries to find, it should find things where both appear. So my highlighting doesn't work properly because it only works for, there's lowercase, I need to do some proper regex for that. But you see both Russia and gas appear in each one of these. But Russia will always be capitalized, which is why the highlighting doesn't show. So there it does, you can see. So that's basically how the search works, and you can put as many terms as you want in, and then it will give them highlighted. And you can also see here the year in which it was published. So let's say you only wanted them from 2019, you didn't want these 2021 graphs, so you could put 2019 in here, and then you just get graphs from 2019. And one of the next features that to do is to add date ranges in the beginning. So I'm thinking that if you do 2019 dash, then it will give you 2019 onwards. If you do dash 2019, it will give you everything up to and including 2019. If you give nothing, it will just give you any year, and if you put 1 year, it will just give you that 1 year. And I guess you should also be able to put in a comma-separated list. You know, do 2019 and 2022 if you wanted for those years for some particular reason. Anyway, so that's what it looks like. And the way that that works is that we explode by ampersand everything in the search, and that printed is what you can see up here. So then, anyway, then what we do is we make the where part of the statement, which is specifying, because in the SQL statement, it will ultimately I'm not sure where one is, but it will basically start with the select because you're getting things from the database, and in this case just star. We could restrict that, but we want almost everything. So we want and then from, you see here, select star, and then from a particular table, and then there's a where statement, where clause, which gives you which lets you basically pick which ones you want returned. So the way that works is, as you can see here, this is the where statement. So you want page text, which is the field that's all of the text from the page that has been extracted, and then you do like, which is not that SQL has likeitis, but we want basically want that string to be in there, and it doesn't have to be case sensitive. So it's not an exact, because you can also put equals if you want a field to, for example, that's how the year is done. It says that it has to be equal, as you can see here, testpaper.date equals 2019. So that's what the where clause does, and what I've done is I've done an array map, and using this function, I don't really like the way PHP does this, but we take the search array and we do this, which is defined here. It just takes the term and it put it in page text like that, and you need to put quotes and percent signs, which I find a bit odd, but that's how it works. So you stick that in, and then you join them all together with and, because we want all of them to be true. You could also put or in, just like normal Boolean. You could have one or the other. And then if there's a year, we then stick and it equals there. And the reason that you can see I've got a paper table all over the place is because, as I did earlier, it makes it really easy to change it, and it changes them in all the different places, because it's not quite a magic number, but it's a magic string to just have that in there. So then what I do is I'm using PDO, and so I start with a get statement, so I prepare, and then I'm selecting all from image table, and then I do an inner join. So the reason that I do that is because for each graph I also want to know information about the paper, and there's no point storing the paper link and date and stuff like that on every graph, because one paper might have 200 graphs, so you're just storing a bunch of very redundant information in the database. So this is why we have a separate table for all of the papers, and then each of those has a unique ID, which is then stored in the graphs. So what happens is there's a paper ID in the image table, and there's an ID in the paper table, and we want to say we want to join these together. So we take all of the papers with the same ID, that so each graph has a paper ID, and then we look and we take that paper and we join them together and then we return them. And that's an inner join where you want things where they both match. And then we add the where statement in, and then we want to limit that, so we only get some results returned, not all of them. And then we execute it, and then we have a pretty similar thing here, but just without the searches. And then we set the rows equal to fetch all. We just get all of the rows. So the way that it's actually displayed is with a table, and this is just a bit of styling. So the this border 1 pixel solid black gives it each of the cells a border, and then the border collapse makes it so it doesn't have a double border, because if you comment that out, you get this weird double border thing, because what happens is each individual cell in the table, because these are all different elements, each cell has its own element, that has its own border, so you have this weird double border, and then the table has one around the outside. So what this border collapse does is that it turns each of those double lines just into one line, and it looks a lot better. So then this is the form where you submit things. We have the search, the year, the displayed items, the image size, and whether or not you want text to be shown, and a submit button. And if you see, they've got these persist values and the persist value default and persist checked. What these are just very quick utility functions, but it's nice to, because of I'm using a PHP formatter, it jumps everything over 3 lines and it's very difficult to read. But basically what this does is, if you've searched one thing, the next search is probably going to be quite similar. So it's generally easier if you just leave what was in there before in. So what I do is I just I pass in what the previous value was that was sent, and then in the utils.php on the persist value, if it exists, then we just echo out value equals that. The same thing on the checked one. If there was anything passed there before, we just echo checked, so it stays checked. And if persist value default, we do the same thing, except we just default the value. So that's what I do with the number per page and the image size, because the similar thing that we did here. And then I suppose I could do, because I'm not sure whether, yeah, I do that there, so I could do that at the top. But anyway, what it does is it just says, so I suppose instead of, because I've got a default here and a default at the top, what I could do is I could cut that. I could put this at the top here, and then instead of persist value default, I could just persist value with dollar num per page, and then I could do the same thing here with image size. That still works. So anyway, this is the idea, is that because if I didn't have that persist, when I checked this and submitted it, it would just disappear, and that persist value with the defaults is what's putting these in at the beginning, and then if I put a year in and I click submit, then it stays there, which is nice. I've also added a clear button. A better way to do it, what I've done is I've just created an empty form with a submit button, so when you click submit it just has nothing, and so that clears everything out. You could also have an anchor tag with a link back to the same page. There's various things you could do, but that seems the easiest for now. It's not the cleanest. Could tidy that up later. So yeah, and then we echo the number of results. Now what I really want to do is tell you how many results there are, but that's a bit difficult without, I haven't yet thought of a way to do that without running 2 queries. But anyway, it doesn't matter that much. It could, because basically what happens is if there's more results returned than the page limit, it will just show you the page limit, because that's how many, because they've been limited in the SQL. But it's not that big of a deal. And you can put a pretty high number of displayed items in without it slowing down. So it doesn't really matter, and especially if you've got a fine search term. So, and the way that it's actually displayed is I have a table here, and then I start with a table headers with all of the things, and then if there's display text, then I echo it. I suppose instead of doing that, I could also do might be able to use the default value and just default it to. But anyway, doesn't matter for now. So what I do is I just do a for each loop going over all of the database rows. I get the ID, because what I've found is that when you're doing string interpolation, this causes a lot of problems. So I just do them all separately. And then I get the image path, and then I construct an image tag which has that as the source, and then I get the image size out of the thing. And then what I've also found useful my father wanted when I was talking to him, because he's the main user of this, is that it's really useful to be able to see what the name of the link actually is. So that's why I've got that in there. And then I do the image link tag, which makes a link. So that means when you click on the graph or the link, because they're all inside, you go to the page where the graph actually is. So I just add the paper link. And then there's a really neat thing which you can do on the browser PDF readers. Is you do page equals and then a page number, it will jump to that page. So I get the page num out of the database row, and I stick that in here. And then target _ blank, it's a bit weird, but it means it opens it in a new tab, because if you're looking at something and then you click on something and it just eliminates it, it's very annoying. And then I just stick the image tag all inside, and then if we're displaying text, then we do this stuff, and this what we do is we go through all of the text, and we do this string replace. So for each search term, we mark it basically, and this is the thing that I need to do some regex on, so that happens in a better way, and includes capitalization. So it's not case sensitive, but it works pretty okay. But that might be a thing to look at next time. And then if we are showing text, I have another cell in here with page text. Otherwise, I just have the ID, which at the moment is the paper ID. I'm not exactly sure if that's what you want, but anyway, have the paper year and the image tag, and then we just echo it all out. So that's how it works. So I think that's all for today. We made a bit of made some progress in adding it. This gets back to the point of trying to speed up the parsing of the graph, and then also need to figure out how to call whatever that's happening from the browser. Not necessarily from the browser, but on a page request, so through Apache or PHP. So yeah, there'll definitely be more on this, and I also hope to do another stream on Compactor soon. So so if you're interested in that, subscribe and stay tuned. There's more on this and other stuff on the way. And I'm also thinking about doing some live streams of learning new languages. Julia is very exciting, and much for all the problems with C and C++, they are everywhere, and so it would be a good thing. I've done a little bit, but I might also do some streams focusing on learning those, going through some books. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.